Shoal. You guys might hear in my accent that I'm not from South Africa. If anyone can guess where I'm from.
Canada or US?
Yeah, US, yeah, nice job. No, the kids today were saying all sorts of weird countries. I just wanted, I was giving a talk at a school today and the kids were saying, yeah, different ones, but you guys obviously know better than them. But yeah, one of the main reasons I'm here in South Africa actually is, did you know that South Africa is in the top 3 in the entire world for shark and ray diving? So the only 2 that are beating South Africa in the whole world in terms of shark encounters and diversity is Brazil and Australia.
Oh, really?
So yeah,
Brazil.
South Africa
That's
is
interesting.
top of the top, yeah.
And where in Brazil?
There's actually some archipelagos off
Really?
of Rio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've never been there, but
I've never heard of it.
Australia,
Yeah.
but yeah, apparently.
Interesting.
There's a diversity in markets, yeah. So I'm particularly interested in rays, but just so you know why so many of us internationals do flock to South Africa to dive. You are diving one of the best places in the world if you love sharks and rays. So I'm doing my PhD on manta and devil rays. And tonight I'm specifically talking about the devil rays. Have you ladies seen devil rays on Aliwal Shoal?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Have you seen lots of them?
Not a few.
Okay. Still haven't seen them. Okay, cool. Yeah, so Aliwal is actually a really important hotspot for these guys, so we'll get into that. And it's really nice to see these ladies events and ladies dive groups because I've been on the boat with Nadine before, and I've been on the boat with Genevieve before, but for the most part it's pretty male dominated, so I love seeing things like this. So yeah, please do let me know when you guys are ever down that side. So I'm going to go ahead and have some fun and test your knowledge. What is a ray? Starting simple. A mammal, a reptile. I see all these signs. Like,
It's kind of broad question. What is a ray?
Water bird, but
Is that a reptile?
is it a reptile?
No, it's a mammal.
No?
No, okay.
It's confusing because a lot of sharks and rays have live birth.
Yeah.
And we always associate that with mammals.
Yeah.
Not mammals.
It's not them things.
What else swims in the sea, breathes with gills?
Fish.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's funny that it's not what comes to mind first because these animals, they're so complex and they have live birth and all these things. Actually, almost difficult for people to imagine as fish, but they are the cartilaginous fish. So most of your typical fish that you think of, butterfly fish, goldies, kuta, they all have bones like us. But the sharks and rays, all of them are made entirely of cartilage. So that's the flexible materials in your ears and your nose. And that allows them to be very hydrodynamic and fast and light in the water. And it's done them quite well because sharks and rays have been on Earth for 400 million years. So they've been on Earth longer than dinosaurs. They do have one hard structure, and that's their teeth. But with the manta and devil rays, do you guys know what they eat?
Fish.
So they eat, yeah, they do actually eat tiny big fish, technically, so that's right. But they actually feed on plankton. Yeah, plankton. Yeah, so they are the only planktivorous rays, or zooplanktivorous, if you want to get sciencey. So that's the animal type plankton. So you guys have probably seen tons of plankton while diving, especially Aliwal, hey? And in Savannah, big slicks. There we go. Big slicks of plankton. So that's one of the reasons why our mantas and our devil rays come here, whale sharks, and also it's the basis of the food chain. So everything else is coming, right? The little fish eat the plankton, and then big fish eat that fish, and so on. So it's one of the reasons why we have such a rich ocean here. It's also sometimes the reason when we have those phytoplankton green upwellings, which aren't our favorite, that's really important for the ecosystem here. So it brings in filter feeding rays. There's about 10 to 11 species of mobulids. So all these rays belong to the family Mobulidae. So that's manta and devil rays or mobula rays. You can use any of those terms. But specifically the manta rays, this is both a giant manta ray, but there are 2 species found here. The difference between a manta ray and a devil ray is difference is their size, yes. They're a lot bigger, but their mouth is on the front of their body, whereas the double ray is the mouth on the bottom. So that's why people still distinguish between the two, even though they're all in the same like genus and things. Do you guys know how big the giant manta ray gets? Take any guesses from wingtip to wingtip?
About 6 meters. 7.
Good guess. A little higher.
9, 12.
Yeah, 8 to 9 meters. Yeah, good guess. Yeah. So the giant manta ray gets up to 8 meters, and then the reef manta, which is smaller, is 5.5 meters. But then our short fin double rays, which you guys have seen, those guys are a lot smaller. Their max size is about 1.3, 1.4.
How big are the schools normally?
The short fin
The
double
double
rays.
rays, yeah.
On Aliwal, yeah, the average is about 10 or so, but I've seen up to 300.
Oh, wow.
On animal.
Which is, yeah, on
That's
Aliwal
good.
in-
On animals?
in
Wow.
December.
Gosh.
Yeah, summertime is the best for them for big numbers. Yeah. Yes, it is possible to see that, which is pretty cool. You can see this picture here. I think that was a day that we saw about 75.
Sure.
But it happens enough to the point where it's like, wow, Aliwal, famous for sharks, but actually, you know, we're hosting one of the most endangered rays as well, which is incredible. So that, yeah, that's the last point, is that these rays are all threatened with extinction. Most of them are listed as endangered. I'm sure you ladies all know about the sharks and rays aren't doing so well these days. Yeah. Yeah, so that's another reason why it's important to study them, to find out where their habitat is, see if it's protected. Thankfully, Aliwal is protected, but these rays swim a lot. They move in and out of different countries, and they dive deep, and they make all sorts of big migrations, so they're actually unprotected outside of Aliwal. So important to find out where they are going for future research. But yeah, the star of tonight is the short fin double ray. There we go, that's good. So yeah, this species is now endangered as of 2020, but before that, we knew so little about this ray that it was officially listed as data deficient. So that means we just don't know anything about it listed as that. Have you guys seen duckbill rays or bull rays? No.
No, you might have. Wouldn't have known.
You probably have. There's those brown ones that like, Eagle rays, that they have-
Okay.
yeah, they jump a lot as well.
Yes. Yes.
Those guys are data deficient. We know nothing about them, which is really cool. Yeah, I love seeing them. But yeah, then these guys, when they were able to assess them as a species, then they immediately got put as endangered, and that's mainly because of what we've seen in Mozambique. So have you guys been up to Tofu before? Yeah. So Tofu, between 2003 and 2017, they saw a 99% decline in sightings of the short fin double ray. There's a lot of fishing activity up there.
Yeah, lots of Chinese trawlers.
Yeah, but also the Chinese are there buying from the locals, so that whole
There you can see the fleet out at sea.
yeah, that's what it's saying. So their story is sad, but it's actually hopeful that we found it in South African waters. We don't have that illegal fishing going on here of this species, and actually we found a lot of them in protected areas, so we don't have to worry about getting Aliwal protected right now. We just have to worry about when they're swimming outside of the area. So they are here for plankton, but they're also at Aliwal for another reason, which is cleaning stations. So you guys seen cleaning stations before? Okay, you guys are experts with that. But yeah, cleaning stations they seem very simple. It seems like us going to the spa or, you know, going to the dentist and stuff. But it's actually super important for them, like us, to go to the dentist for our hygiene. These animals have to come back to clean almost every day if they can, because there's so many parasites in the water and there's so much bacteria. And particular species, and especially sharks and rays, they'll come back to the exact same cleaning station year after year after year. So obviously you all know the ragged-tooth shark. They're cleaning on Channel, they're cleaning in Cathedral. Those are massive cleaning stations. So just shows you how important these areas are for these species. Manta rays, you guys have seen, they're quite famous for cleaning stations. Turtles are also cleaning, small fish, big fish, all of them. So the manta rays are world famous for cleaning, But the double rays, maybe because they're not as big or maybe not as friendly as manta rays, although it depends on where you are in the world. But their cleaning stations haven't really been found. So we've only found, actually, the first one was found in Vilanculas in Mozambique.
Okay.
And then I found the second one on Aliwal only in 2020. I'm sure divers have seen them cleaning there before, but because they didn't have the background in manta research or they didn't know it was like a special thing, I'm sure people have seen it before. But yeah, officially discovered in 2020. This is kind of what it looks like. I think Nadine has been there, or Genevieve, you've been there with me? Have you? No. So you guys know the dive site Bay of Caves?
Which one?
Bay of Caves? I'll show you a map just now. But anyway, the ledge doesn't look like much, right? So most people probably, normally on a really strong north-south current, people end up coming up around this because it's a very flat kind of boring area. And if the rays and sharks aren't there, it's quite a boring little ledge to dive on. It's very much hit or miss. So, but yeah, that's it. And
That's in the south.
yeah.
And
So,
how
like,
often
Bay of
are they
Caves.
there? How often do they do the cleaning station?
Yeah, so in season I've seen them almost every day on this reef. But you'll see this is a GoPro. So I leave GoPros on the reef. I have seen them in person, but to get the cleaning behavior without humans there, where they're all slow and relaxed and stuff, is good on the GoPro. But yeah, you can see them scuba diving, snorkeling, free diving, anything. Yeah, so summertime is best, but they are still around. Hopefully after the floods.
No.
Yeah, so have you guys been to 2 Mile Reef before? I still haven't. You have? Did you see the double rays cleaning?
No.
No, okay.
Exactly. I haven't
Okay.
seen them.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a sad story there. So that was the first discovered cleaning station, and of course there's probably thousands of cleaning stations for double ray species, different double ray species around the world, but for some reason, maybe because they're more shy or who knows, we just haven't found them. But that was the first one. But the sad thing about this spot is that the max number of double rays they've seen there in the last 15 years or so has been 30. And most of the time they haven't really been seeing them. So for us here in South Africa, this is really hopeful for this species, at least to see them, that there are still at least 300 left, and they seem to really love Aliwal. So yeah, it's really good. It's a hopeful thing. So when I found the cleaning station in 2020, it was actually right before lockdown, and I was a bad diver. I got lost on the dive. A very strong south-north current. I thought that people were seeing what I was seeing because I went, "Hey, rays," and then I turned and watched, but then people didn't actually see me gesture to them. So by the time I turned back around, everyone was gone. It's alright, I did what I need to do, the bubble search, and come back up, and it was an old skipper at Blue Ocean that isn't there anymore. So, I mean, I wasn't thinking of marking the spot anyway, because it was such a strong current, and then I came up, and then I just had to get to the dive master to let him know it was okay. So we did that, and then I thought I was going to be able to dive Aliwal again soon anyway. So I went and spoke to my supervisor about adding a chapter on this into my PhD. Went back to Cape Town because I'm a student at UCT. Got it all approved and stuff. Was ready to come back and dive, but then lockdown happened. So there was no GPS point, nothing. But it was actually a really good thing because a lot of the dive centers helped me out, like Scuba Co, Blue Ocean, Agulhas House Dive Center, Kent's, my partner's freediving company. They all helped me just tag along on the boat, get to know the reef really well, help out where I can, dive master where I can, and then I got to know the reef super well to try and find the site again. And that's when diving started again, I think in September of 2020, yeah. So it took a couple months. I didn't find the site again until November. It was with the help of a couple other dive masters. I was showing everyone the video, saying, what is this? Eventually, a guy named Miley, I don't know if you've met Miley before, one of the Blue Ocean dive masters. He says, that kind of looks like, Miley. Yeah, Miley. He said, that kind of looks like Bay of Caves. Okay, take me to Bay of Caves. And when we got there, I was like, this is the site, but it's not a regularly dived site, so that's why it took so long, I think. But I needed to actually survey the whole shoal anyway to see, do we see double rays everywhere? Are they cleaning everywhere? And the answer is yes, you can see double rays pretty much anywhere on the shoal. You guys can tell me that. And this is a very basic measurement of abundance or sightings of rays, sightings per unit effort. So basically, out of all your dives, you add up the sightings and then you add up your dive time at those sites, and then you divide it to get the SPUE, sightings per unit effort. So you'll see familiar names, Northeast Pinnacles, pretty good for double rays. Inside Edge, not as good. Channel, North Sands was always pretty good. Cathedral, South Sands area, pretty good. Then you can see down here the double ray study site, many more rays on average. Doesn't mean that there's more rays there always, but you're seeing them more on average. And actually, I've never seen double rays to clean anywhere else except down in that area. There's not only one cleaning station in that area. I've found at least 4. There's probably a lot more. But I only have enough budget to look at just one at this moment, so that's why I've just been focusing on one. But yeah, nice to see that they're around. The biggest schools actually, the biggest fevers, were on North Sands, Pinnacles area. So keep your eyes peeled when you do go to those sites in the summertime. We are working on offering like a double ray dive to people, so stay tuned for that. I'll send that to you guys. Really good. Been working on that for about a year now, so yeah, ready to release it soon. But yeah, this is what the map looks like. So see Cathedral, it's like pretty south of Cathedral, but you can get to Cathedral if it's south-north, and you can get there if it's north-south. It's not too far. Yeah, so pretty close.
Oh, so it's okay. I've done eel skins, but I don't think I've ever done devil ray stuff. Might have.
No, so I just put that there because it's a site. Yeah.
And I know the two.
You know, eel skins.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. So it's like inshore of that. Or sorry, out to sea of that. I'm sure you've been down there. It looks like just a bunch of flat
yeah, boring.
ledges. Some people call them southern ledges. Yeah. But a lot can happen there.
Nice cowie shells there.
Sometimes. Yeah. Yeah, so this is just more footage of what they look like cleaning. So a lot of the research is just describing the cleaning station itself, the numbers of rays that are there, how many males and females. Sometimes you see groups of just females cleaning. I love seeing that. Sometimes you see groups of pregnant females cleaning together. So that's really sweet to see. Sometimes you see just groups of males, or sometimes in this case you see a mix of them. So they do it as a social thing. These rays are highly social beings. Yeah, so they do like to clean as a social activity, and then that often leads to other behaviors too, like they can maybe start courtship after that. Okay.
She needs a wine, quick!
They can start courtship or even dating after that. So these cleaning stations support a lot of other different behaviors as well. And then, yeah, just a little bit on the data, having to count like how many times the cleaner fish is nipping them, and luckily the cleaner rats are the ones that clean these guys. You can see there's a lot coming from the distance.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Perfectly positioned GoPro.
Thank you.
The reef actually looks fake.
Oh, because it's so close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks photoshopped in.
Thank you. Well, it's a lot of trial and error.
Did you just leave your GoPro down there?
For 1 hour, yeah.
What?
Yeah. So I think when I met Nadine,
We
I can't remember if I met you guys at Scuba Co or Gullis, but what they'll do is before like the normal planned dive, they'll drop me to just go down really quick, leave the camera and come back up. And then, yeah, I think it
Wow.
was, yeah. Yeah.
It was a long weekend where there was plenty of boats going out.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to go to this a lot. Yeah. Do you guys know how to tell males and females apart?
Female ones are the ones always talking.
Females have the red line.
We just do it to everyone.
Yeah, spell it the Y. Okay, so this is a male.
Anybody else?
So males have 2 external reproductive organs, but they only use one when they're mating. So they have to have 2 because life in the ocean is so rough. They have to have a backup.
It's
And
not
I've
all the
seen
girls are
plenty.
spoils.
Yeah, they get to choose which one. Yeah, I've seen plenty of rays with just one clasper, so you can see why. And sharks as well. It's the same for sharks and rays. Skinks, yeah. And the females, you just see the pelvic fins. It gets tricky that when the males are immature, their claspers aren't like fully extended, so they're like teeny little things, and they don't stick out past the end, and that's when it can get tricky. So if you're looking at a particularly small raggy or something, you're gonna have to look under and look at the pelvic fins to see if you see two little things. Obviously, if they're really big,
You can see it from a mile.
I feel like that's
Yeah.
rude though.
Hey?
I feel like that's rude.
Yeah, I've done that to many mantas.
I've done that to many men.
I'll just like have 1 or 2.
I've done that to many manta rays. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes the sharks if I need to. So yeah, it's just a bit about the data. If you guys have any questions, how I analyze it. I'll go to the more fun stuff though. This is a cool finding. So
When you say you've only got enough funds for one site, what sort of cost is involved? Is that really rude to ask in front of everyone?
no, not really at all. It's really just the dive costs. But then, like if you add sites, each site that you add is going to double your sample size. Yeah. So it's also
And
me just
time.
being lazy. Yeah. Time. Yeah. So I'm just focusing on the original one because I've gotten a lot of data from it so far, and it's been very consistent. But I'm sure they like kind of just move around the whole area and clean where they want. Yeah. But that's good news for divers because then you've got the chance to kind of see them a lot more than if it was just this one site and then say a dive group spooks them, then they might leave. But it's actually good that it's more spread out. Yeah.
When you say they're comfortable and when you say they're shy, I know that's a weird question.
So they're shy because in order for me to get footage of them when they're cleaning, so when they're swimming, they're a lot more brave because they're swimming and they've got the upper hand. Okay, these guys have no stingers. Speed is their only defense, and they've got really good vision and really good sensor systems, so they know how to react. When they're cleaning, they're super relaxed, and that's actually when the most predation happens, as like an ambush. So when they're cleaning, actually, when I'm scuba diving, the only way to get footage in person scuba diving is to be like far from the reef, like kind of a code of conduct, like at least 4 or 5 meters from the reef and sitting on the bottom, not making much movement. Yeah, because I think that's when they get nailed, is when they're cleaning. And that was actually going to be the next point, is that they most of the time clean in groups. And I've seen on the videos, because I've got to analyze every single video, if one of the rays gets spooked, they all just scatter. So they don't get as much attention from the cleaner fish because there's so many rays there. There's only so many cleaner fish. Sometimes you'll get the brave ray. That's only 7% that I've seen of one ray cleaning. Sometimes you get the brave ray going in cleaning. Then all the cleaner fish are on him or her, and then he gets a really good bath. But I think they kind of would rather be in groups just because they're social and they can keep more eyes out. Yeah, there's a lot of sharks down that way. So if you guys have gone on a dive to try and see bull sharks before, that will be the Bay of Caves area. Yeah, good chance to see them down there.
And do you do it on open circuit or closed circuit? When you dive?
Circuit.
Open
Yeah, if
circuit.
you use rebreather,
Yeah.
if you use rebreather, you'll have amazing.
Well, that's what I was going to
reactions.
say, because then you don't have bubbles.
Yeah, or free diving.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rebreather one day, I actually asks Stu like how to
Yeah,
get involved in
that would be amazing.
Do you use rebreather?
I've tried it once.
Yeah, that would be 100% the way to go. You get the most wonderful.
But I'm just
interactions.
wondering if they should, like, they make this one area very protected and not let divers really go there, you know, because it's the only chance that the rays have. You know what I mean? And then we're disturbing them all the time, and
Yeah.
I mean, there must be somewhere where they can be safe.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, there is that, and then but there's also the fact that they kind of need
They need the
publicity at
tourism.
this point,
Yeah.
just because they're still unprotected. The species in South Africa, they're protected in Mozambique now. But yeah, it is a catch-22, and I think that is why we've kept it kind of under the radar for a while. But I mean, the divers that I know will be good about it. They won't chase them. Yeah. And I think a lot of people have ended up in that area before.
Without knowing it.
But yeah, just without knowing that it was good for divers, because eel skins is right there. They have caves. There's often a strong north-south current. Or often.
Be by mistake.
Yeah. People always said too, like, oh yeah, I've seen big schools of devil rays on my safety stock coming up, like after north-south. But yeah, that is a very
I
good
had
point.
that there actually.
Did you?
Yeah, our last dive on our safety stock, we had about 15 of them. And they were incredible. There was only 3 of us on the safety stock. And they just, it was like they were dancing around us for ages. Wow, it was such an awesome, I think my safety stock ended up in about 15 minutes because we were just having such a tour with them.
That's
It
so
was lovely.
special.
Yeah, it was really incredible.
Oh wow. Oh man, I miss them. Yeah, so when they want to interact, they.
Yeah, that's why I was
So
asking
curious.
you because they were, it was really unbelievable. Neville got some awesome footage. My battery had died. Like 5 seconds before.
mental vision. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. So when they want to interact, they are very curious. Yeah. Just really the cleaning that they're the most shy. That's so special. Man, I
Yeah, it
miss
was
them.
really nice.
Yeah.
I'll send you with Neville's pictures because they were divine.
Okay, thanks. So cool. Yeah, so a bit about the conservation. You ladies are already divers, so I don't have to preach too much about this, but the 3 main reasons, as we talked about, targeted fisheries, there's a gill plate trade, so the organ that eats plankton is sold to Asian markets to make a medicine that isn't actually medicine at all. Same case like rhino horn. You can kind of attribute a lot of the manta ray and devil ray declines to that. But equally as destructive would be bycatch.
We should get rid of those nets.
Yeah, they're working on it actually.
Thank
So,
God.
yeah, they're starting to replace them with drum lines.
Good.
I actually have friends in the shark sport. It's a very gray area, complicated situation, but yeah, we mainly have to just change people's perception.
What's a
Yeah,
drum
well-
line?
So drumline, instead of the net, so it won't get bycatch, it'll just get the sharks. That's still not ideal, but
But why do you want to catch the sharks? There's no whaling stations.
I mean, there's nobody swims there in others.
but
But
that's
you can
we
swim.
need you ladies to change the perception, because if the public perception doesn't
Yeah.
change, it'll never change.
Besides the fact that the sharks always get caught on their way out, they never get caught
On the way in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so those are essentially big gill nets, but there's also like seine netters, you know, like the tuna fish,
Yeah.
offshore tuna fishermen. We're lucky, we live on the coast, we can buy from a guy who just fished on the line, you know. There's also a great app, I don't know if you've heard of it, Sassy, SASSI. Yeah, it's so useful, it just tells you which fish
The red,
are
yeah,
red,
orange,
yellow,
red,
green, yeah. Amazing app to use so that, you know, it's pretty overwhelming to think, oh, now I have to look up every fish species that I'm going to eat, you know. But you can go on this app and then it just tells you what's safe to eat and what's not in terms of overexploitation and poor methods, poor fisheries methods, yeah. Pollution, you guys know about that. Yeah, so this is what the gill plate trade looks like. It's based out of Guangzhou, China. And these different colors, let's see, are the different species. You see that they do harvest them around the world. But South Africa, as far as I've seen or heard of so far, it seems to be not really actively participating in this illegal trade, knock on wood, but seems okay for now. Yeah,
That's
so
not
that's
too loud.
I know. Yeah. What is interesting though, just reminded me of another interesting fact. Did you guys used to see a lot of wedge fish or a lot of guitar sharks
Yeah.
on Aliwal back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't see them anymore. No.
So they are the most critically endangered
Oh wow.
shark array in the world. The bow-mouthed guitarfish, which we actually saw the other day, it's nice. But yeah, bow-mouthed guitarfish, white-spotted wedgefish. That's the big guitar shark, but it's actually called a white-spotted wedgefish. And there's other bigger. They're actually rays, they're not sharks. They've got the gills on the bottom. So those are the most critically endangered in the world. Their fin is worth $1,000 per kilogram.
Wow.
So that one I've been trying to figure out. I think it also gets caught a lot in nets because it likes shallow water, sand, and inshore. I don't think there's a big shark fin trade here. You guys would have to tell me. I don't know. Doesn't seem like it. Yeah, so it could be just the bycatch for them. But anyway, on to the good news, because there is good news. One cool thing about the mantas, and I know Nadine and Stu has helped me out a bit with this, telling me they're mantis sightings. But it's this method called citizen science. You guys heard of this? Yeah. So citizen science is basically when the methods like photography are involved with an animal, which a lot of animals, photography is a huge thing, or maybe a sighting thing. If you've heard of iNaturalist, where you can report different animals that you see around the world. Because people want to be a part of the research, and they can be part of the research, they are going diving or walking in the wilderness and things, there will be these platforms where people can upload their data, and then the scientist gets to get more data. So if you're just one researcher, you're not going to get that much data. But then if you have 150 photographers all submitting their reports, it's amazing. So I mean, with just the mantas, you have a whole lecture on citizen science because there's so many species that use citizen science. Anything from a ground hornbill to an African penguin to a whale fluke to zebras, giraffes, anything that has a unique spot pattern on it. So like a fingerprint that you can mark individuals. You can do these citizen science projects. So for the manta rays, it's on their belly. Their belly here, so they're all individual, and it's been amazing. Around the world, people have submitted their photos. There's over like 60,000 public submissions of these photos, and it has resulted in real conservation change. Like in Indonesia, for instance, there's a dive site in Komodo National Park and dive sites in Bali. And all the divers were submitting their photos, and then eventually they found that the same mantas were crossing. And at that time, there was no protected zone in between that. Then after that, Indonesia declared all the waters protected area for mantas. So things like that, like it really does help. With the mantas here in South Africa, I'm just starting to build up the database, so I really do need citizen scientists like you guys, ladies. And most of my data on the mantas so far has been from people kindly donating their photos. So if you do have a manta photo of its belly, please upload to the public database called Manta Matcher, or you can send it to me, either way. But it's not a dating website. It's more like a Facebook for them, and it's free and open source to use, so you can actually have a look around the world. What are the mantas doing in Ecuador? What are they doing in Mozambique or South Africa? How many mantas are there in this place? How many mantas are there in this place? You can see if they've gone from South Africa to Mozambique, which we have found migrations between countries. You can see how many times they've been seen or for how long they've been seen. Some mantas we've tracked for 30 years now, and other places have tracked more. So now we get an idea of their age, get an idea of how much they love certain places. You know, some mantas are seen like 50 times, other mantas once, you know, so it just goes on and on. So we say population size and structure, population trends, movement patterns, all sorts of things. It's almost like a tag of a manta without tagging them. But then again, tagging research is
Stu, what's
super
that manta
awesome.
called that used to come always play in our bubbles?
Fred. I don't know.
Where was that? Do you have photos?
No. Years ago on Aliwal, there was one manta that always came to play in our bubbles on our safety stops. Always. She was well known.
I don't remember her name. I've never met her.
Didn't you?
No,
I dived
no,
with her a few
I dived with
times.
real divers. I didn't mention it.
That's amazing.
Oh,
How old did
in
they
my
want to get
logbook.
to?
I've got her name.
So we think about 50, but maybe more. There's one manta in Hawaii that's been watched for about 35 years,
Oh wow.
but she's not fully grown yet. She's a reef manta, so probably about 50 or more.
Sure. How do they know how big they get? How do they know that she's not fully grown?
Oh, that's a good question. So there's this thing called laser photogrammetry. So you take a camera and then you have it mounted onto, like, let's say a tray of some sort, like a metal tray.
Yeah.
And then you have two laser pointers. And then you know the distance of those laser pointers. And then you go and take the picture of the manta. And on the manta there'll be two. You got to make sure the whole manta, either this whole way is
So it's
visible
sort of
or
flat.
this whole
Yeah,
way.
okay.
Yeah. And then you can see the laser dots on that. And then you use a program called ImageJ. And ImageJ is really nice because you tell it what the measurement is, and then it will tell you. But there's a couple different ways. Some people use references to, a diver in the water, but that's probably the most accurate one.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've had some amazing manta encounters.
It's just that one on Aliwal. I mean, my first ever dive in Mozambique was at a manta cleaning station at 10 meters. It was a tri dive.
Oh wow.
I was hooked.
Yeah, that's a good way to spoil forever.
I think there were about 15 mantas.
Oh my gosh. Was that tofu or?
No, just off Morangula.
Hey, Marangula, really?
Yeah.
That's actually just become a new famous manta site. wasn't it?
So 10
It used to
meters
be.
off, just slightly north of Aliwal Shoal. So that's a resort just next door to Morangula. 10 meters deep. Ask Stu to ask Les, he'll tell you. He might still have the coordinates because he used to skip it.
Okay. No, they've got some dive centers up there now too. Yeah.
But he ran a dive center up there.
Oh wow.
So he might have that coordinate. We used to do tri dives.
Very, very nice. What a special place to dive. So you would have known from diving with them. They seem very aware. They come up and look into your eyes, stare into your soul. They sometimes play with you. Sometimes they don't want anything to do with you. It just depends on the individual or how they're feeling. I've played hide and seek with mantas. I've been touched by mantas. I've been pooped on by mantas. Anyway, all of these stories that we all have, it kind of shows how intelligent they are. We have these amazing dolphin interactions. We know dolphins are smart. So manta rays actually not just act smart, but we know they are because scientists have looked at their brain, and they have the largest brain to body size ratio of all fish. So that includes every shark species, every ray species, every bony fish species. They've got the largest ratio. So you guys have heard brain to body size ratio. It's kind of like one of the measurements scientists use to show if an animal's smart. So humans, we have the largest brain to body size ratio. Right, so obviously animals have bigger brains than us, but in ratio to our body, humans have the most. And other very intelligent species we know, elephants of course, chimpanzees, bottlenose dolphins, orcas and things. But yeah, of all the fish, it's the mantas, and you see it in their behavior. So some of the ways they interact with humans, you see it in these cooperative feeding events. Has anyone been to the Maldives? Okay, good, because I haven't, and I would not been able to look at the person who has.
Just got back.
Somebody just got back.
Look at you. That's amazing. Did you see the mantas there?
We did not. It was a sore point. We went to two different manta cleaning stations, and they didn't arrive.
I feel like you should get your money back.
That's what we said. Well, actually, this is a refund. But we got the whale shark, so we can't complain.
Oh,
we got,
okay.
It was one
Only
of
a
them.
whale shark.
Yeah. We've seen a few mantis, so I was happy with my whale shark.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, it was quite. The week before, same thing, they didn't get the mantis, and then our week we didn't get them, and then now this week they got them again. So, yeah.
Sounds like were they just
Ones
targeting
which-
the
Mm.
were they just targeting cleaning dives, nothing more, not feeding.
Yeah, just the cleaning stations, yeah.
So we can see mantis clean in Sodwana, so you're gonna
Yeah.
see a mantis clean in there.
I hope so.
Yeah, you definitely will. But the Maldives, next time you go, look out for the dive centers that are taking people to see the feeding events.
Okay, that's interesting.
So this is in Honeyfoyer Bay. I'm not sure that they let people scuba there anymore, but it's still worth it to go. Because sometimes you see up to 200 mantas doing this cyclone feeding. Have you guys seen Blue Planet 2? They cover it in that documentary. Yeah, with the drone and stuff, you see the mantas in there. Anyway, great footage to watch. But basically the mantas are so smart that they know if they work together to swim in a circle, that all the plankton will come to the middle. Yeah, and then they have a feast. So
Oh wow.
cooperative feeding, yeah, like dolphins and humpback whales, and yeah. They have these really complex mating events called mating trains. You guys heard of those? Or-
Mating train.
Yeah.
Train?
They- yeah. But the sharks do that too.
Behave, Chantal.
Well, Chantal's gonna like the story. So in the shark and ray world, actually, the female is the larger one and the dominant one. Yeah,
So it should
awesome. Second, usually a lot of males will be following one female to mate, and she'll just kind of swim for as long as she wants. With the mantas, the males have to copy her every move. So if she, does some acrobatic turn, they've got to do it, and it can be like 3 males up to 50 males
Wow.
pursuing this one lady. It just depends on how picky she is, because with the mantas, the mating trains can last from 30 minutes up to 48 hours. So it depends on how picky she is. And then after all that, they finally get to mate, and that lasts for about 10 seconds. Classic.
Well, she makes them wait so long, I'm not surprised.
That's a good point. Yeah, and
Jude, it doesn't mean that because you last longer than 10 seconds is good.
I don't have a problem, you must just learn to keep up.
And this whole mating train thing is actually if not, we don't know about it in all the species, but all the species that the reproductive behavior has been researched do the similar thing where it's one female and like I've
That's
seen it.
amazing to see.
Are there more males than females in nature then?
Okay.
Are there more males than females generally?
Oh, that's a good question. In some places, yes, but in some places it's an even sex ratio. So that's another thing we do with the photo ID research is see the sex composition. So I was based in Zavra, Mozambique for a while, Zamora.
Okay.
The mantas there were half boys, half girls, but in tofu, there's like 80% females, like very much female dominant. So they just have their little sites that they go to that are for different life stages or for different sexes. Because they're so social, they've got these. It's much more complex than we know.
They're born with that sex, they don't change according to the environment. The environment.
No, in sharks and rays,
They're born like that.
Yeah. But a lot of bunnyfish do that. Yeah, as you said. Yeah, and then those who have been lucky enough to see it on Aliwal, I have reports of mating trains of spotted eagle rays, mating trains of ragged-tooth sharks. I've seen mating trains of white-tip reef sharks, and I've seen the double rays, of course. But yeah, it happens. It just almost seems a bit opportunistic. Like everything in Africa, the manta rays of Africa are the toughest. They have the most shark bite wounds out of any manta population in the entire world, by far. Like some manta populations will maybe have or 10% with big shark bite wounds. Our guys, 75% of them.
Wow.
This is for the reef manta rays specifically. So you can see why they have to have a backup clasper. Sometimes they lose their whole tails, they have these massive bites. Did you guys see that video of the orca getting the manta off Durban?
Mm.
It was on WhatsApp going around.
Yeah.
Yeah, so orcas go after them. I mean, they're big pancakes, so poor things. It's good that we have that many sharks in the area. You know, elsewhere around the world, there's not that many sharks left. The Caribbean, I lived in the Caribbean for a while. Great diving, but pretty boring when it comes to sharks. So it's good that we still have a few in the area. And other good news, manta rays are worth way more alive than dead. So
Good.
international manta tours, manta dives, manta snorkels. They're probably worth a lot more than 140 million now, because that study was only in 2013. The mantas are super famous now, especially around divers. Yeah. So compare that to the fishery, which is only $11 million a year. There's no comparison. So even if someone doesn't care about a manta ray at all, they care about money or business, they have to care about them. So same like the African parks here, it's amazing to see the care of the rhino and the culture around it. Like, they're worth way more alive than dead through tourism. So with the blacktip sharks, I mean, you guys can all tell me how that's made. Come on, it's an
Billions.
international,
Billions of
and ragged,
And the ragged.
Huge, yeah, ragged
yeah,
is
huge.
world famous. I mean, I learned about Aliwal when I was like 17, reading a dive magazine in New York. That's how famous it is. So yeah, these animals are worth a lot. So we were speaking about this earlier, but I've been working the past year to kind of develop an ecotourism model to advertise the devil rays. You know, Aliwal has already got a lot going for it, but this would just kind of help the devil rays get a little bit more publicity. As you mentioned before, we do have to be very careful with how we treat the site, because it is very sensitive. But just the fact that the species isn't protected in South Africa, but we've got the last kind of reliable place to see them. So just by getting the word out for them can help a lot. So we're working on trying to make like a devil ray dive where there's a code of conduct, like the divers have to, you know, behave the way the dive master tells them, doesn't chase the devil rays, or like the dive is aborted, something like that, you know. But everyone that I've been diving with so far seems like they would do it, you know. I haven't met anyone that said, no, I'll chase them, you know. So I think there is some opportunity, and also to see them courting like that. I filmed that on Aliwal. It's also very special.
Is it all done free diving?
No, I filmed that on scuba.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
On your spot?
Just above, yeah.
Just above your spot?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that was my probably top dive in Aliwal.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Miley was with me, and also did you meet Shannon?
Yes.
Shannon Stewart.
Yes.
Yeah, she was with me as well. You guys have to meet Shannon sometime. Another lady diver. Yeah, epic dive. I've been searching for that since, and I saw it on North Sands the day that there was about 200 to 300. But we had guests on the boat, and I had to get back on the boat. And all my GoPros were dying, so I was like, well, I'm not going to film this again. So. But anyway, it happens every year, so keep your eyes peeled. See that. Yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you to you ladies for having me. Thanks, Kathy, for organizing this, and Stu, and Dean. Yeah, thanks for always supporting my research with spreading the word, and yeah, thanks to the Rufford Foundation for funding me. And yeah, thanks.
Awesome, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ladies, have any questions?
Just a comment. It's so lovely to see young people enthusiastic